Hey friends, welcome.
Hi.
Hope you guys are doing awesome. For those of you who are regular subscribers or followers of our channels, welcome back. We're excited to have you guys back and see you guys again. And if you're new to the channel, I'm Mark. I'm a certified health coach, and this is Teresa. She's a board certified family nurse practitioner. We are with Total Health and Wellness, and we like to talk about everything from hormones to metabolic health and everything in between. So moving right along, let's talk a little bit about tonight's kind of theme, and it's going to be how to achieve ketosis in 48 hours. All right. So keep in mind that's a very generic statement. It's going to be different for everybody with regards to how fast they can get into nutritional ketosis, but we'll talk a little bit more about that here. So for those of you, I almost got ahead of myself. I wanted to announce if you guys are interested, we're going to be doing a giveaway. We're not doing the giveaway tonight, but we're going to talk about the giveaway at the end. So anyway, if you're interested in our little giveaway, just make sure you view this all the way to the end, and then we'll talk more about it and let you know what that's all about. So let's talk a little bit about obesity. So 2 in 5 adults in the United States are obese. That's today in the United States. All right. In 2019, obesity accounted for about $173 billion in health expenditures in the United States alone. So a huge amount of money. Also, the prevalence of obesity has been increasing year after year. So unfortunately, children is the biggest demographic right now that's moving into that obese area of metabolic dysfunction. But adults also have that problem now, and it's been increasing. So we had about a 30.5% prevalence of obesity in the United States in the years 1999 to 2000. And so fast forward now, from 2017 to 2020, we're up to 41.9%. So you can see it's growing, the number of people that are becoming obese, and that's scary because the worst part about obesity is it's a gateway to so many disease processes and illnesses. So risks of being obese include a lot of you guys are going to know this. A lot of it might come as a surprise to you. And we'll talk a little bit about some of these here in more depth in a second. But just to give you an idea, type 2 diabetes. So that's not a shocker. Most people who understand obesity, type 2 diabetes goes along with that. Cardiovascular disease, stroke, high blood pressure, gallstones, osteoarthritis and osteoporosis, gout, breast cancer, colon cancer, endometrial cancer, sleep apnea, asthma, kidney disease, liver disease, pregnancy complications, infertility, depression and anxiety, Alzheimer's, and erectile dysfunction. Wow. And I want you guys to understand that that's not an exhaustive list by any means. I'm just hitting some of the highlights. And those things are all direct risks if you are obese. And I know that you wanted to talk a little bit more about some of those that we just mentioned.
Well, I think a lot of times, men suffer from erectile dysfunction, and the providers don't say this is from sugar. But if you're a man and you have diabetes, that is going to be the next step for you, because diabetes mucks up the small vessels feeding things. So that's why you're talking about kidneys and eyes. And then the penis, there's a bunch of small vessels that feed blood into the penis. And if you're not getting blood flow, that's the number one cause of erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
And,
sure.
Among other things. But we all call, in functional medicine, we call Alzheimer's and dementia type 3 diabetes.
Yeah.
So your brain gets so insulin resistant that now you can't absorb any glucose and your brain suffers.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also, which you did list cancer, but everyone's afraid of cancer.
Right.
No one's afraid of getting osteoporosis or osteoarthritis or fatty liver. Like, those things aren't on your radar, but nobody wants cancer. That's food.
It is food. And we talked about this the other night because Dominic D'Agostino, a PhD professor from USF, the University of South Florida, where Teresa got her nurse practitioner degree from, he actually was talking about this in San Diego in August of last year. And he reiterated it again and talked about it again last week at Low Carb Boca Raton, where we were at. And I only mentioned 3. I mentioned breast cancer, colon cancer, and endometrial cancer. But was there 9 or 11?
Yeah, there's 9 of the 12 top. 9 of the 12 top cases of cancer are metabolic. So 9 of them. Prostate's in there too.
Yeah.
So like for me with hormones, and now things are changing. People aren't really like, hormones cause prostate cancer, testosterone in men causes prostate cancer, and hormones in women cause breast cancer. It's getting a little away from that myth. But when patients used to come in and say, I'm just kind of worried about that, I would say, stop drinking, because breast cancer is highly influenced by alcohol, and change your food if you don't want breast cancer or prostate cancer.
Yeah. And the good news is we're here tonight to tell you about a simple, well, it's not simple. It's simple for me to tell you about it tonight. It's not simple for you to implement it, but we're going to tell you the easiest way to reverse this or prevent this thing, these things that we've just told you about, that non-exhaustive list. So it's all about, what we're talking about is about prevention and or reversal or remission of those things that we talked about. And that way, to do that, the easiest way, in our opinion, is to get into deep nutritional ketosis. And that's just eating a well-formulated ketogenic diet. And so tonight, we just want the takeaway to be how simple it is for us to tell you how simple it is with regards to the things that you have to do to change to prevent or reverse those things. And so we'll start off with a little bit about the foods that we would recommend you eat. So this is the good news, is the foods that I'm about to tell you, you can eat as much of those foods as you'd like to. Okay, so things like meat, fish, shellfish included, poultry, eggs, healthy fats. So things like ghee, lard, tallow, those things are healthy fats, and it's totally okay for you to eat those in large quantities. Pork, bacon, things like that. You can eat as much as that throughout the day as you need to until you're full, and those will help you get into nutritional ketosis
and stay full. And and the biggest thing that people don't want to do is, well, I'm not going to have, I can't give up, fill in the blank. And so what I would encourage you to do is ask yourself what that fill in the blank is, and then really intellectually ask yourself if that's real food. Okay.
Yes.
Because Pop-Tarts, yogurt, cereal, granola, those aren't real food.
Yeah, the things you're getting from Starbucks, they do have some sandwiches and stuff that have meat and eggs in them and whatnot, but overall, did you have something you wanted to?
Well, someone asked, I think it was Rhonda, I can't see that far away, can osteoporosis be reversed?
Asking for a friend. Oh, that's exciting. That's actually a really good question.
You really need hormones for that. You got to be on a well-formulated hormone protocol, plus magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin K. Sometimes I will put patients on strontium for a year until we get it back to penia, and then just hormones D, K, and mag for sure.
Osteoporosis to osteopenia, and then complete reversal, right? Yeah, that's what you were mentioning.
Yeah, it takes a while, but we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah. So there's probably a lot of people who wouldn't even have thought of that with regards to getting into ketosis and eating this way. Okay, so where were we at? So we were just talking about the foods that you can eat as much of. So I mentioned those, and again, reiterate: meat, fish, including shellfish, poultry, eggs, healthy fats, and then of course you got bacon and pork and things like that. That's in there as well. So
can I just say, when you and I used to eat the standard American diet, we ate the same things every week. We had pasta, we had like sloppy Joe or chicken. It was all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like we weren't eating something different every single day of the year.
And yeah, you can absolutely say that.
I just didn't want to interrupt you.
This is a great place to stop and say, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit the like button or subscribe to us, depending upon which flavor of social media you're on. So, all right. So, what else can you guys eat? So this next part, for those of you who are on carnivore, it's not going to apply to you, or for those of you who want to go on carnivore, but we're going to talk about non-starchy vegetables. So Teresa and I, we personally limit the amount of non-starchy vegetables, but there's, a school of thought in the keto field, so to speak, that you can eat as much of these as well. So that things like that would include broccoli and cauliflower. We eat those. Bell peppers, not a huge fan, but bell peppers are okay. Cucumbers, but that also includes pickles. And remember pickles, because there's another important takeaway of pickles when we're going to talk about a little bit later. Zucchini, asparagus, and just, when you're eating those, a lot of times you're eliminating a lot of other foods. So be careful when you're eating those to be mindful of gas, bloating, diarrhea, things like that may be going on when you're eating those, because your stomach is going to start going through some changes. And we'll talk about that later when you go into a ketogenic way of eating or carnivore. And so those are things to be mindful of. A lot of times there's foods you're eating that are doing things to you you don't even realize until you eliminate them, and then you start slowly putting them back in one by one. You're like, oh, that made me feel this way, and I didn't even know it. That's why I had gas all that time, or whatever.
Yep. Brussels sprouts is another one. So apparently I'm making that next Sunday, because the kids at this Sunday dinner was like, you haven't made Brussels sprouts in a really long time.
Yes.
So, but every Sunday I make a vegetable. So yesterday we had cauliflower mash. So that's why we don't say we're carnivore. We say we're ketovore.
Yeah.
Because on occasion, once a week, usually we'll have a vegetable.
About 90-10, 90% meat, 10% other. Okay, so let's talk about dairy. Okay, so dairy is going to be very individualized. There's a school of thought that's like, yeah, dairy's fine, eat as much as you want. My blood sugar on like milk and stuff will spike a little bit, so have to be careful about that. And then also, I tend to get a little bit not bloated, but I put weight on fairly quickly, even if I'm eating everything else good. When I eat things like yogurt and cottage cheese, like I have to be very careful to eat those in small quantities. The other thing about it that I'm sensitive to is my nose and the back of my throat. I'll get that gummed up feeling. So I clearly have some sort of inflammation around or an allergy around dairy. So again, just be careful around dairy. And maybe it's one of those things you want to take out altogether when you first start eating this way, and then slowly adding that back in until you can kind of see what it's doing to you.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have anything you wanted to add about that?
I forgot.
Oh, okay. Well, if you did, you can just interrupt me, and then I'll forget what I was talking about. We can go back to it later. No.
Dairy has morphine-like substances in it. So there is a school of thought, like Joe Niflin's school of thought, that no one should eat dairy because it has addictive properties.
Yeah, good point.
But that's something for you to individualize and figure out for yourself, because I don't get obnoxious and overeat cheese. And I don't think most of us, I've said that last time we did a live, I don't think most of us got fat on broccoli and asparagus and cauliflower. Like, I just don't think you can overeat those things.
Yeah, and I don't think I even mentioned what the dairies were that I think, like personally, I think is okay to have a little bit of. I don't go overboard on it, but that's going to be cottage cheese, full fat, plain Greek yogurt, and then heavy whipping cream.
Yeah.
Teresa likes to have heavy whipping cream in her coffee, and she also uses it as an ingredient in quite a few of your quite a few of her recipes that she does. Brussels sprouts being one of them, and then cheese, of course. So we mentioned that, but so those are the things you can. I hate to use the word moderation, but those are the things you can kind of moderate when you're trying to achieve ketosis and eat this way. So I mentioned this earlier, but a couple of things to be aware of when you're eating this way are tummy and brain fog. So tummy stuff and brain fog. So the tummy stuff is as you're changing to a different way of eating, your gut microbiome, thing has to start changing in accordance with that. And it has to get an adjustment, it has to go through an adjustment period and learn how to eat these new foods that you're eating in like a higher fat, higher meat type of diet. And so when that's happening, you're killing off some gut bugs, you're introducing new ones, and you're just trying to figure things out. And then eventually, especially for those of you who are on carnivore, you're going to get into more of an enzymatic process. So most of us by nature, we use fermentation to break down the foods that we're eating, especially the carbs. And then, but when you're eating meats and whatnot, you tend to use an enzymatic process. So just be aware of that. And then the brain fog comes about from.
Keep going.
The brain fog comes about from also switching from using carbohydrates for fuel to using ketones for fuel. So sometimes people during that adjustment period, again, they get a little bit, kind of not confused. I don't know what words am I looking for. It's kind of a feeling of malaise, or they call it the keto flu. I mentioned pickles earlier. So the reason I mentioned pickles is because when you buy the pickles, you also get the pickle juice. So the solution to the brain fog is going to be electrolytes, and that's going to be keto flu in general. So the solution to keto flu is going to be electrolytes. So salt, magnesium, potassium. And with the pickle juice, you can drink that, and that's got some of those electrolytes in there. So that's something you can just use. Just drink some of the juice out of your pickle jar, and that will help with some of those symptoms. There's also electrolyte drinks like Element and Keto Chow. I was just researching all these the other day because I'm actually trying a few of them out for my electrolytes. And then there's a keto electrolyte formula that we have that I use personally. We take it twice a day. It's a capsule, and you can order those. We have a link to FullScript in the description and the comments section here. And you guys can go to FullScript and look for that supplement. Did you have something you wanted to read?
Well, Jerry asked a question, or just said that when she has a lot of dairy, I think it said she feels pressure in her chest and breaks out in a sweat. So sometimes you can have a sensitivity, a food sensitivity, and that's what it sounds like. And I wonder if that is dose dependent. Like if you just have a quick splash of heavy whipping cream in coffee, would it do it? Or is that eating cottage cheese or full fat Greek yogurt? So it just depends. Dose is, dependent as well. So yeah.
And again, you can start by taking all that out. Just going back to the basics was just meats, then start introducing those one at a time back in and see how it makes you feel. And then, maybe you eat just a little bit of cottage cheese and it doesn't feel like anything, but then you eat, a whole cup or 2 cups of cottage cheese and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm breaking out in sweats. So
people are saying hi to us. Hi.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Awesome.
We're so happy you're here.
So, a big question that comes up is about salt, because, you know, we've all been told, just like fat and everything else, stay away, you know, cholesterol, you know, you got to stay away from it. And salt's included in that, unfortunately. And salt took a lot of the blame for sugar. We don't need to get into all that right now. But at the end of the day, you can eat as much salt as you want to when you're eating this way. So you just salt it to flavor. You give as much salt as you want to make the foods taste the way you want them to taste. And then you're good with that, you know, and don't worry about the salt.
So your body needs like sodium and potassium and chloride to function. So if you're restricting salt, bad news. And when elderly people get sent to the hospital for like UTI or their electrolytes go off, when you have elderly people come in that are confused in the hospital, the first thing you do is check their sodium. And so many times it is low. And as soon as you replace that, suddenly they're just like back to normal.
Yeah,
so it's a huge, huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So when you're doing this, we also want to talk a little bit about monitoring the effects of various foods and whatnot. So there's a few tools you can use. Again, we'll have links to where you can get these in our comments and descriptions below. So you can, if you're interested, you can look those up. But those would be things like the Keto-Mojo. It's a ketone/blood glucose monitor that you, it's a finger stick, and you can actually do the readings, you know, right on the spot with that. It's sort of like the glucose monitors that, you know, that diabetics use. It's the same principle, except it also measures ketones. You can also keep a food diary, and that's especially important to watch and see what effects of foods are having on you if you're wearing the next tool I'm going to mention, which is a continuous glucose monitor. And we talk about this, and that's the Stelo by Dexcom, and that's an over-the-counter scanner that you guys can get from the who's selling it? Do you remember?
I would just they go to Stelo.com.
Okay. Right on.
That's in the links.
All right. And then what can you drink? So drinking coffee is fine. Carnivores say, you know, no coffee or whatever if they're hardcore, but I think coffee is still okay. The bottom line is it's not going to take you out of ketosis. It's okay. Tea is also okay. Just be careful of teas because a lot of times they'll add in sugars and stuff. So make sure you're reading those labels on that. Water obviously is good. And then I'm a big fan of the zero sugar drinks. So things like Waterloo, Bubbly, and LaCroix. So I'll drink those. Now, some people get gas and bloating from drinking those. So be mindful of that. It doesn't do that to me, and I actually do enjoy those. Yeah. So those are okay. Did
you have got to individualize this for you and figure out what works. Because where we started in 2018 is not where we are now.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Yeah, we made a lot of mistakes on the way. There were ups and downs. We were on, we were off, and then now it's just a way of life for us. So we've made the adjustment. And then something else to be mindful too, if you're into HIIT training, so high intensity training of any kind, whether that's interval or it's, you know, extreme weightlifting, whatever it is, you might want to, when you're very first starting this way of eating, you want to avoid that. And then the other thing you want to try and avoid right off the bat is fasting. Fasting will come naturally, and you'll know when it's time to fast because you will not be hungry, or you'll not be hungry as much once you get a ways along in this way of eating.
Fat adapted.
Yeah, for sure. Ketosis, again, you can enter into ketosis relatively quickly. And then fat adaptation typically takes longer depending upon depends on how metabolically healthy or dysfunctional you are. So anyway, did you have anything you wanted to add to any of the stuff we've talked about?
I don't know. I don't know, but I just keep thinking of hearing people saying, oh, that's too restrictive. That's too restrictive. That's going to cause an eating disorder. I
don't think so.
I feel like the way we used to eat was an eating disorder because it bordered on binge eating because you can't stop eating some of these hyperpalatable foods. And I would really, really encourage you to be intellectually honest with yourself. And what food are you actually missing or afraid to say goodbye to? Yeah. And then I would really see if that's real food. If it's, you know, again, Pop-Tarts, cereal, that's all stuff that's been invented in the last 100 years. And Harvey Kellogg invented Kellogg cereal to stop masturbation. So, you know.
That sounds crazy, but it's a true story.
Right. They were Seventh-day Adventists, and they thought meat led to carnal lusts and all that other stuff. So I just would, if you're being intellectually honest, really find the food that you're going to miss and see if it's real food.
Sorry guys, I'll just read comments, making sure we weren't missing anything, just in case anybody commented live that would, you know, we could answer for you on the
and this is hard, and it's hard to change because there's a social aspect to it. Now we have our circle very, very small because that's just what we've chose to do. And don't want to say keep drama out, but we've just chosen to keep our circle small.
Yeah.
But if your circle's not small, this can be tricky. If your spouse or your family's not on board, it can be tricky. If you work someplace that every single day, the medical clinic I used to work at in Florida, it was a neurology clinic. The drug reps brought in lunch, and I'm talking Chili's, like lunch, 4 out of the 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
If that's you, you're going to most likely fail. There is no way to pass up that every single day.
I used to love visiting you at the
I
office.
know.
There was always a big lunch for the drug reps in there. We'd go in, it would be like all this food that we would have to go out to eat that would cost,
and I'm not talking about like a sub sandwich. I'm talking about meals.
Yeah, you're talking about Chili's. You're talking about also these big piles of like nacho chips and
stuff.
Yeah,
and they would bring in like those egg rolls and I mean, all of it, all of it.
For sure.
So when you go to do this, you do have to kind of carve out a plan for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do tell people, if you are very social, I would take 1 month and not do any social engagements and just decline all offers, because that's the hardest part, the beginning.
Yeah.
And then after that, check the menu before you go someplace, eat before you go, all of those things we've already talked about before.
Yeah.
And then just be ready for the barrage of, what are you doing? Are you doing that?
Yeah.
Who told you to do that? Is this a fad? How long is this going to last?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And, anyway,
For sure.
It's not that it's not hard. It's just there are ways around it, and things you can anticipate happening.
Yep, for sure. Okay, I think we're all done with talking about the ketosis stuff. So now I wanted to talk about what we're going to be offering. So about a week and a half ago, Doug Reynolds, who's the founder of Doug Reynolds, who's the co-founder of LowCarb USA and also the SMHP. I can't forget Pam Devine.
No.
Sorry about that, Pam. I almost skipped right by you. But Doug wrote this book. So this is the Road to Metabolic Health. And so he released it on Amazon, and then he was also selling it at the LowCarb Boca conference. And so what I'm going to do is we picked up 4 copies of this. We picked up 2 copies from Doug himself there at the conference, and we got him to sign them and write a little note in them. And then we also got 2 copies off of Amazon. So not tonight, but coming up here probably in a week or so, we'll do some sort of a special drawing or something. So you guys can enter into that drawing to win a signed copy of that book.
Yep.
So we'll do the 2 signed copies first. We'll probably do one on YouTube one night and one on Facebook the other night. And then we have the non-signed copies we'll also do. So be on the lookout for that. Be watching our videos for that. And again, if you guys haven't already done so, please like or subscribe. And I think that's going to be it for the night.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's some comments, but I'll go answer them after for Facebook anyway.
Yeah, we'll check them out a little bit later, guys. So anyway, we love you all.
So much.
God bless. And we'll see you all next time. And don't forget, food does matter.
Bye.
Bye.